Welcome to Season 2, Episode 9 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak life, encouragement, and truth into the minds and hearts of educators and get you energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm going to share some tips for prioritizing your teaching tasks when everything seems like it's urgent. Visit truthforteachers.com to read the blog post, get links to recommended resources, and to share your thoughts on the show. So, in last week's episode, I debunked the myth that there's a correlation between hours worked as a teacher and the results you get. And I shared that it's not only possible to work a 40-hour week as a teacher, but to be an outstanding teacher while still having a personal life. All of that is possible in 40 hours. The foundation of using your time effectively and being efficient is knowing how to prioritize your tasks. So I wanted to dig a little deeper into that topic this week. I want you to remember that you can't do it all, and everything is not equally important. When your job starts to feel completely overwhelming and it seems like you could work 24 hours a day and still not be done with everything, chances are good that you've either lost sight of your priorities or you never really set them to begin with. You've allowed so many tasks to pile up on your plate that they all seem equally important, and it feels like the world will just come crashing down if you don't complete all the tasks right now perfectly. If you're not sure whether a task is really important, ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't do this now? For example, what would the consequence be for not rewriting every misspelled word on every student's paper? How would your lesson go if the worksheet you create doesn't have adorable clip art on it this time? What would be the result of not color coding your filing system, or creating a lengthy welcome packet for your student teacher, or changing your bulletin board borders on a monthly basis? You can do anything, but you can't do everything. You must determine which tasks are really critical by asking yourself, what will happen if I don't do this right now? If you can live with the result, then put that task in an eventually section of your to-do list, or just remove it from your list altogether. It's also important to remember that urgent and important aren't always the same. Almost every issue that crops up during the school day seems urgent. It seems like an emergency. And that's especially true of our interactions with students, because kids often feel like their requests are just earth-shattering in importance and they just have to have our attention right away. But everything that feels like an emergency is not an emergency. Ask yourself, what will happen if I do this later? What will happen if I don't do this right now? Can this be handled in a few minutes? How about a few hours? How about a few days? Don't let other people's last-minute requests drive your schedule. Now, that doesn't mean you just ignore the work or you let other people down. It just means that you choose a more convenient time to accommodate them. So if your team leader announces that she needs a set of forms completed by the end of the school day, don't stop your grading and then immediately fill them out. Just write finished forms on your to-do list and stay focused on your grading. When a parent tries to corner you in the parking lot for an unscheduled conference, say, I need to go finish planning the science activity that your child's going to do tomorrow morning. It's going to be incredible. I know she's going to tell you all about it. Can I schedule a conference with you Thursday afternoon when I'm free, and then I can really focus on what you're telling me? If a student asks you to write a recommendation letter or something else that's outside the scope of your usual instructional tasks, tell them, sure, like I explained in my policies at the beginning of the year, I don't have time during the school day to work on those kind of tasks, but I give up one of my Saturdays each month to help out, so I can have the letter to you in 2 weeks. You see, you are in control of how you manage your time. Ultimately, you are responsible for your own time management and your own productivity. If a last-minute or urgent request is not critical, you can choose when to complete it. And you can respond to interruptions while still making your planned work the priority. Take a few seconds to write down your next actionable step for your planned work before you respond to an interruption. And this will make it easier for you to pick back up where you left off. So for example, if you're typing an email before school and the school psychologist stops by, she just wants to quickly fill you in on a student's issue, don't leave the email half done and take the chance of accidentally losing it or forgetting to send it. Say, sure, can you give me just 1 second? And hit save, and then scroll on your to-do list, email Sarah's mom. So taking the time to save it and write down on your list what you were doing and what you need to finish doing will take less than 10 seconds. It's no inconvenience whatsoever to the person who's waiting for you. And without being rude in any way, it's sending a clear message that if someone chooses to stop by your classroom unannounced, they can expect to find you diligently working on something important. And that will decrease the likelihood of future unplanned visits. And best of all, then when that person leaves, you can immediately refocus on what you were doing without wasting time wondering, what was I doing again? What was I saying? Who was I emailing? What was the topic? And that leads to another important strategy, which is to get information out of your head and onto a list. Creating lists is absolutely essential to getting things done. If we don't write something down, it takes up space in our minds, which could otherwise be used for creative tasks and being productive. Holding information in our minds is very stressful. You'll feel like you can never stop thinking about work if you're trying to remember everything you need to do. When you're lying in bed at night or grocery shopping and you suddenly think of a task, write it down. And then you can dismiss the thought from your mind. So it's really important to find a list-making system that works for you. And then when you're going over your to-do list in the morning or the night before, which is even better, figure out the most important task of the day and do it first. Ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do today that will allow me to leave work feeling a real sense of accomplishment? There's always going to be many things that you need to get done, but chances are there's one thing that's more important than everything else. Maybe you have a pile of 2-week-old tests that you feel guilty about not having graded yet, and it just weighs on you every time you go to bed and you know that you didn't get them graded. Or maybe you're being observed the next day and you haven't even begun to think about what lesson you'll teach, and it's creating all sorts of panic in you. Maybe you have an IEP meeting and you're feeling anxious because your documentation isn't in order yet. These urgent, important tasks will create anxiety and dread if you procrastinate on them and focus on other work. So write down your one thing, this most important task of the day, this task that you can't feel happy leaving undone when you drive out of the school parking lot that afternoon. If it's too hard to pick which task is most important, then pick the hardest one. Pick the one that you dread the most and you're likely to just keep putting off over and over again, and get that task done first. If you have to wake up early in order to make time for it, do it. Get the most important thing done before you get sucked into all the other work or distracted. You'll feel a tremendous sense of accomplishment when you get this hardest or the most important task taken care of right away. And that feeling of productivity will set the tone for your entire day. Also, if you have interruptions later on in the day and you fall behind, at least you'll know, hey, I got the most important thing done. Whenever possible, you also want to try to group similar tasks together, and that will increase your efficiency and help you avoid multitasking. Have you ever noticed how much quicker it is to grade the last few papers in a stack than it is to grade the first few? That's because you get into a flow after a while. You recognize that answer patterns and your brain is trained on what to look for. So for that reason, it's better to grade all the papers for an assignment at once rather than just get to a couple whenever you can throughout the day. It's also more efficient to respond to all of your emails at one designated time rather than answering them one by one as they trickle in throughout the day. Always try to group similar tasks together. Do all your photocopies for the week in one trip to the office. Make all your parent phone calls before open house in a single evening. Search online for multiple activity and lesson ideas at one time. Get your brain in a productive flow and go with it. Don't interrupt yourself. Multitasking is really the enemy of productivity because our brains just don't switch between tasks as well as we'd like to think that they do. Every time we stop grading papers to read an email or to check our phones, we lose precious seconds as our brain registers the email notification, reads the subject line, checks out the message, decides whether to respond or not, and so on. And then we lose more time when we return to the grading. We have to reread to figure out where we were and just shift back into that mindset for grading. When you multitask like this, each individual task takes longer to complete than if you'd gotten into a grading flow and concentrated solely on that, and then gotten into an email flow and concentrated on that. So figure out what's most important. Do that task and any similar tasks first, and then move on completely to the next thing on your list. Now, there will be times when your most important priority doesn't seem clear. And in those instances, when you're in doubt about what to do, always choose the kids. You'll notice that the examples that I've given of interruptions and unplanned tasks and things that have to be delayed have nothing to do with your time spent teaching and connecting with kids. All of this planning and scheduling and time management is meant to control the other demands on you, the email, the grading, the paperwork, and so on, so that you're better able to focus on your students when you're in class. That is your number one job. We have a tendency to get overworked and think that our lesson, our goal of getting kids to meet learning standards is the most important thing. And the kids' needs then become an interruption. But the opposite is actually true. The kids are the most important thing, and the work is secondary. We teach students, not standards. So whenever you're unsure of your priorities or you're unable to make a decision about how to use your time, ask yourself, which of these tasks will benefit students the most? And do those items first. The work can always wait because you will never regret the time that you spend helping kids and meeting their needs. I'm going to be delving more into this topic of setting priorities during the month of October in the 40-hour Teacher Workweek Club. This is a brand new subscription service that I'm piloting with a group of really innovative teachers who are going to be networking and adapting my time-saving strategies for their unique classroom situations. So the goal is to shave 10 or more hours off their work week by setting goals, creating boundaries, streamlining routines, and developing simpler and more effective ways to complete tasks that are related to teaching. The 40-hour Teacher Workweek Club is only open to new members until October 10th, at which point it's going to close again until January 2016. So if you want to be among the first to try out these strategies for work-life balance, you can join the group of 40-hour innovators by going to 40htw.com, 40htw.com. And that's the numerals 40htw. I'd like to leave you with a motivational quote for the week ahead that I call the takeaway truth. And here's the takeaway truth I want you to remember this week. It's from Peter Turla. He said, "Managing your time without setting priorities is like shooting randomly and calling whatever you hit the target." This week, focus on distinguishing between what's urgent and what's important. Prioritize your to-do list and make sure that the most important things get done first. Have a fantastic week. You can do this. And remember, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it. Truth for Teachers is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. For more great podcast recommendations, go to edupodcastnetwork.com. That's edupodcastnetwork.com.